Never let anybody see you sweat.
So I was born in New York City, and I lived there until I was 8 years old. I realized that I was a much better talker than I was a listener.
I don't know what to say, I just don't like what you're saying.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I ended up going to law school at Georgetown, and I was a prosecutor for Janet Reno. I loved it because it was so raw.
Were you cheating on her?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All rise.
Our show will be a mixture of education, I think you're misreading the law a little bit, and entertainment. My main goal is justice and the law. That's been my legacy, and the legacy I hope to continue into the future with the show.
Jamie Halter claims he paid for rabies shots because his former landlord let squirrels run wild on the property and he was bitten. Emily Trenton says she hired an exterminator, but Mr. Halter took it upon himself to try and trap a squirrel.
Mr. Halter, you are suing your former landlord, Ms. Trenton, for $3,275. The cost of rabies treatment that you say is her fault for letting a situation go on too long. Tell me what happened.
Yes, Your Honor. So I moved into Miss Trenton's establishment in January, and it was all good at first. I knew everyone in there. Everything seemed normal. And then starting in late March, we started hearing noises inside the walls, which was pretty alarming because it literally sounded like things running around and scratching the walls from the inside. So we filled out a maintenance request, and they had someone come and check it out, and they said that it was a squirrel problem and that there was nothing they could do about it. So they decided to set up some traps around.
Where did they set up the traps?
Around the outside of the establishment.
Did they seal the openings?
No, that's the thing. They waited for the squirrels. They said to give it a couple of weeks and to let the squirrels kind of find their ways out of the house and into the traps.
Okay.
And then a couple weeks went by, and the noises actually got worse. It sounded like there were more of them. It was getting louder.
Yeah, now it's a party, because I imagine the traps have food or nuts or something, or no
Yeah,
bait?
a little bit of both, yes.
Yeah,
Whatever,
they
some
had
kind of
bait.
bait,
Okay.
yeah. And it got worse, and it was waking up everyone in the house at very early mornings early hours in the morning. So we then decided to fill in another maintenance request and say that the problem had gotten worse and that we needed something to be done about it. So then they sent in a professional to take care of it. Later on, we heard from our landlord that they had sealed all the holes in the wall.
If they seal it, how is it going to find its way out? It's going to die and stink up the place.
Exactly, and that was our
right,
concern.
because typically this is not my first rodeo. And so typically what they'll do if there's room to do it is to set up a trap inside.
They put a trap outside of the wall.
Okay, so there probably wasn't room to put a trap inside, but go on. So what happens?
Yeah, so we, after a couple of weeks with the noise went by, we told them that we needed something to be done. They came and they sealed up the...
Right, so after the sealing, how did it go?
Yeah, so they set up a trap in the basement that they said...
Outside of the walls in the basement?
Yes.
Like literally, you could see the trap?
Yes, it was sitting
gotcha.
in our basement, yes.
Okay.
So they sealed the walls, which we were not too happy about.
Why?
Because that leaves no room for the squirrels to get out, and we knew that there were still squirrels in the walls because we could still hear them in there after they had sealed the walls.
Okay.
So then a few days after they came and sealed the walls, I got home late from work one night, and I walked in through our back door, kind of where we park our cars, and I heard noises in the basement.
Okay.
So I called down there to see who was in there, if it was one of my roommates, and I didn't get a response. So I had to go down to the basement to see what was making that noise, and it was a squirrel running around our basement. And I happened to see the trap that had been set there, and it was facing the wall. So if anything was to get trapped in there, I'm not sure how it was going to because it was up against the wall.
Up against the wall with how much room between it and the wall?
Not enough for a squirrel.
Well, okay, hold on one second, ma'am. So how much room is that?
I give it about 3 inches.
Okay, so go on.
Yes. So it was in a position that it was a catch and release trap, and I knew there wasn't really going to be either enough room or likely that the squirrel was going to find its way wedged into the trap. So I decided to go down there and move the trap into a spot that was hopefully going to be a little more likely for the squirrel to get trapped. So I was keeping my distance from it, and as I went to move and readjust the trap so it could get in, the squirrel attacked me and bit me in the finger.
You ended up having to go where? ER?
Yes, yeah. So as soon as I got bit, I knew that was a problem. So I ran upstairs and told my roommates that a squirrel in the basement had just bit me. So they took me to the hospital. On the way to
Did it hurt?
Oh yes, it did. A squirrel bit me. It was not fun.
Well, it's just a squirrel. It's not like a hippopotamus or anything. But you know, or you certainly knew once you got to the hospital that the problem is rabies.
Oh yes.
And the rabies vaccines.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So they took me to the hospital, and I knew I was probably going to have to get some kind of rabies shot, and I told them that. And they told me that the only place that administered the immunoglobulin, I believe that's how you say it, shot, which is the shot that's supposed to stop the rabies, was in the ER. So they had to admit me into the emergency room and to take that shot. And then what I learned in the ER is that if you are not previously vaccinated for rabies, then you are going to have to proceed with the rabies vaccination as well, which required coming in 3 separate times. And each time that I did that, I had to be admitted into the ER once again.
All right, he wants you to pay for his medical bills. They gave you notice of it. It wasn't successfully handled. And why shouldn't you have to pay for his medical bills? Let me hear your defense.
I feel that I addressed all of maintenance requests right away. Squirrels are not a new happening in Vermont, where my homes are located. After we assessed that there was the squirrels, then I hired the professional and this was on the 5th of April.
Okay.
And it takes some time because the idea is that you want to trap them inside the walls.
Coming up on Justice for the People.
Why does he think he's qualified to now he knows the psyche of a squirrel? He upset the squirrel. The squirrel was happy there. He didn't know, that you don't really mess with wild animals, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And later.
That is the culprit in my flower box. And as you can see, Your Honor, there are no living flowers in that box because he continues to engage in this behavior.
If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching Emmy-nominated Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We're back with a dispute between Jamie Halter and Emily Trenton over a squirrel bite.
What if you can't get to him in the place where he dies? Then it just ruins your house.
They know what they're doing, Your Honor.
Well, what would they do? So the thing's dead and there's no room for a human to get to where the thing went to die. Then what? It just starts to stink up your house?
Yeah.
You need to rip out the walls? Sounds...
There's a way that they go in and assess it. I don't know if they use like a little light and go in, and they see where it is. And when I asked Jamie before, when he told me he moved the trap, he had stated that it was around 6 inches from the wall, and that, according to Daniel, that's where he had put it. There's a reason. He's the professional. I am not a professional squirrel catcher.
You're not?
No.
Right. Okay.
And he's trying to play both sides. Like, it's not inhumane. This is how you have to do it. If it was, rodents, they could tell because they usually leave trappings. My issue is he had no problem contacting me all the other times. If he saw this animal, I don't know why all of a sudden...
Why is he moving the trap?
Right. Why does he think he's qualified to now he knows the psyche of a squirrel, and he upset the squirrel? I mean, that's just... The squirrel was happy there. He didn't know, that you don't really mess with wild animals, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Why isn't she right? Because you could have closed the door to the basement. You got bit because you decided to move where the professional had put it.
Well, Your Honor, I feel that as a landlord, she doesn't seem to know a ton about how to deal with these kinds of problems. She's saying that her professional knows what they're doing, but at the same time, we had squirrels in our house for over 3 weeks.
Yeah, I got news for you. It takes time.
Right, exactly.
To trap. It takes time, especially if you want them, to get a trip to Hawaii as well as get out. Mm-hmm. Like, when you're not willing to have them shot or whatever, quicker ways of killing vermin, it does take time. I know that because I've had this issue in a house in North Carolina in the mountains where it was raccoons, not squirrels, but. Mm-hmm. I know it takes time, and you don't know better than that. But prove to me then that she was being negligent if she first got a handyman out there, then you said, no, it's continued. Then she gets a professional out there, and the professional says, this is how it's going to be, and it's happening. And apparently, something the professional did
pulled the squirrel out of the wall because we're getting progress. The squirrel is in the basement. Shut the door to the basement and call the professional over.
Well, it was when I did find the squirrel in our basement, it was late on a Friday night. So I knew.
Okay, then close the basement door
You
and
said
call
it
the
was
professional.
Saturday.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Call it, whatever. That's not a good excuse for you getting involved personally and putting yourself in harm's way with a wild animal that could carry rabies. Because I'm sure it didn't bite your finger off. That's not the fear. The fear is, oh my God, now I'm going to have to spend $3,275 on rabies shots.
Right. And
Right. So why are you getting involved instead of going and closing the door and standing back
Right.
and letting them do it? Because you think you know better than the professional who she hired?
I'm not saying I know better. I'm just wondering if the
Because
trap.
it turns out you didn't, right?
Well, I think maybe if the squirrel had given me a little time to trust.
Right,
it,
but that's the problem with those squirrels.
But-
they don't give you time.
I feel though that
The squirrel felt you were getting into its space and were a danger, and so the squirrel bit you aggressively, because that's what they do.
I feel there was a problem because the squirrel was in our space to begin with.
No. And you're wrong about that, because the problem that the duty a landlord has is to eradicate the problem. The duty by the way, I presume that you live in a nice, beautiful wooded area with trees and,
I'm trying to.
Yeah,
afford
you take the
rent.
good and the bad with that. And so the duty of the landlord is not to have a vermin-free home. It is to eradicate it before it becomes a problem for you. And she was doing that, and then you went down and actually got close enough to a wild animal to get bit by it because you decided that you were going to change where the trap was because you don't like where it was. Couldn't you just have closed the door? And in retrospect now, don't you wish you'd closed the door and called her?
I'm not sure how comfortable I would have felt with a live squirrel in our basement.
What, really? What happens if you just close the door?
I'm not sure is the thing.
Let me tell you what doesn't happen if you close the door. You do not get bit.
Yes, but the squirrel found its way throughout our house without us leaving a door open for it.
Okay, so the
I feel
worst
like
that can happen is that the squirrel can go back to its hiding place, right?
The worst that could happen.
That is the worst. That's a lot better than you getting bit, right? Verdicts for the defendant, my friend.
Your Honor,
You brought this on
rise.
yourself.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim is denied.
I hope that you learned your lesson. I mean, that's why I hired a professional. That's what they do.
The way that you went about trying to fix our problem was not the most effective.
Coming up,
So what is the cat doing in your flower box?
Well, he's urinating. I do have some video evidence of the perpetrator
I'd like to see that.
I definitely would love to show that to you, Your Honor. Here we are, Your Honor. That is the culprit.
you're watching Emmy-nominated Justice for the People with Judge Milian. Miller Easton claims his neighbor fed a stray cat that used his flower bed as a litter box, and the defendant owes for the dead plants. Baxter Rose says the cat did dine at his home, but he's not to blame for damages to anyone else's yard.
Okay, Mr. Easton, you are suing your neighbor, Mr. Rose, for $425 that you say you are out because he perpetually feeds a stray cat that is doing damage to your flower bed.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So what is the cat doing in your flower box?
Well, he's urinating. I do have some video evidence of the perpetrator
I'd like to see that.
I definitely would love to show that to you, Your Honor. Here we are, Your Honor. That is the culprit in my flower box. And as you can see, Your Honor, there are no living flowers in that box because he continues to engage in this behavior.
Have you ever seen cats at the food bowls?
Absolutely. I've seen Mr. Rose go and actually fill the bowls, and I requested him to stop doing that, and he continues to refuse to stop feeding the cat.
Okay, Mr. Rose, let's hear from you, sir.
I didn't put out the food so that the cat would go defecate in my neighbor's flower
That
box.
wasn't your master plan?
No, it wasn't my master plan, and it was not at all. And in fact, Mr. Easton very, very aggressively from the
I
start
was very polite,
No,
Your Honor.
Mr. Easton,
blamed
Easton, stop.
me
Right.
for this cat, and I kept feeding the cat, but when it was a month,
Did he
was
ask you to stop?
He did, and I did stop after a month, and
Right. During that month, you said, no, I have a right to feed the cat, and the cat's hungry.
I wanted to feed the cat. The neighborhood, everybody
Why
else in the
did you
neighborhood likes
stop?
it. Because eventually it just became too much. I felt like I was being harassed.
By him.
By
Mr.
Mr. Easton. I didn't want to take
What
it
happened
anymore.
when you stopped feeding the cat?
I mean, the cat doesn't come eat food from my yard anymore.
Do you still see the cat in the neighborhood?
I see the cat around. I don't know that other neighbors aren't feeding the cat. You know, it belongs to everybody. It wasn't my cat. So the 3 or 4 months that it's been doing this, I don't know. I have trouble believing that he's tried everything.
Coming up.
I love animals. I love cats, and I think they should be taken care of. But I believe Mr. Rose should have been a little bit more responsible.
You're watching Emmy-nominated Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We're back with the case of Miller Easton, who blames Baxter Rose for feeding a stray plant-killing cat.
Is there a law against feeding a cat?
There is not, Your Honor, but there definitely should be some responsibility if you're going to take care of it.
But why, though? He can't control what the cat does. There's no
Exactly.
leash law on a cat. It's not his cat anyway. There's, I understand what you're saying. I lived in very close proximity to a cat lady, God bless her. And I loved her. I did not love the 80 cats but it was just a thing. Like, what right do I have to tell her you can't put food out for a cat? Like, in other words, it's not like he was putting food out in your rose beds in order to have your roses destroyed.
Exactly.
He was just on his own property putting a little food out to a starving animal, which there's no law against. So how is that him breaching a duty he owed to you? Because you can only collect your $425 against him if he breached a duty he owed you.
Well, Your Honor, I love animals. I love cats, and I think they should be taken care of. But I believe Mr. Rose should have been a little bit more responsible.
But he was responsible. He was responsible for his fellow animal and felt bad that it was starving, so he gave it food. Like, his actions, I understand, brought a cat around that then now force you to take some measures to keep the cat out of your flower bed.
Right.
Take the measures, Like, I don't know that you have tried everything, but, I don't see how that is something that he did wrong. In other words, court is about two things. Your side, the plaintiff, has to come to court and prove two things to the court. One, he did me wrong. And two, this is how much I'm out because he did me wrong.
Judge Milian's verdict when Justice for the People returns.
The only thing he did was put cat food.
You're right, Your Honor, but I find that if he is going to take at least half responsibility...
But he's not even a little responsible, see, because he has to be doing something wrong for me to look at him and say, pay something. He has to be doing something wrong. And if he's not doing something, I wish you guys could have worked it out together. Then you can say a little bit here, a little bit there. But no, the time for that is past. Once you come to court, I just got to call the balls and the strikes. That's my job. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at what he did, and there is nothing illegal about what he did. It's unfortunate for other people who don't like cats and then have cats come into their space, but it's just a thing. He owns his property, you own your property, and it's just too bad unless he's doing something wrong. So my verdict in this case is for the defendant.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim is denied.
I think that it was silly that we even had to come to court over this, and I'm glad that the judge felt so, too.
He should definitely have been responsible. I mean, the cat's out of the bag.
This has been a production of Allen Media Group.